Okay, so we're going to look at part of Chapter 2, which is measures of central tendency and measures of variation or spread. And this is meant as just a quick review of some of the terms that you've learned in the book and the online videos. The focus of this is going to be more toward using your calculator to find those different values. Okay, so measures of central tendency are where you expect to find typical data values. Okay, the first measure of central tendency is the mean, and ever since probably 4th or 5th grade you've been finding a mean, which is a numerical average. Okay, and what you do is you add the data values and divide by the number of data values. Now, in this class, we have two different kinds of means. We have a sample mean, which is given by the symbol x bar, and there's a population mean, which is the Greek symbol mu, okay, mu, okay, mu. Okay, now the good thing is that basically you find them in the same way. Okay, and what you do is you add up all the x values. Okay, so you sum the x values. Okay, so that symbol means sum. Okay, so you add up all the data values and divide by n, which is the number of data values. Okay, so the way you look at that is add all data values and then divide by the number of data values. Okay, that's essentially what we're doing. Okay, and then we have another measure of central tendency is the median, which is the middle number when the numbers are arranged in order. Okay, and we'll get to examples of that, of how you find that. Okay, and then the mode is the value that occurs most often. Okay, measures of variation or spread. They help describe how the data varies or how the data is spread out. Okay, so the first measure of variation is the range. Okay, and all that is the maximum data value minus the minimum. Standard deviation, just like for the mean, there's two different standard deviations, one for the sample and one for the population. For the sample, the symbol is S. Okay, in the equation, and again, you can find this in the book, and the videos online in the book will explain how to use this formula. Okay, the sum of x minus x bar squared over n minus 1 for the sample, and then a population standard deviation is sigma equals, well, now we're dealing with a population, so we have the sum of x minus mu squared over just n. Okay, and again, you can read the book and learn why those are the formulas. Okay, but I just wanted to do a quick review of what the different measures that we're going to be using in this class. Okay, so the next thing we have here is a list of 20 exam scores for a statistics test. Okay, so we'll just assume here, it didn't specifically say, but we'll just assume that this was every student in the class, okay, and how they performed on the exam. So we're going to look at this as a population. Okay, so to find the mean, median, mode, standard deviation range, and the IQR interquartile range, okay, and again, each of those things, okay, the first 5 of those I just showed you. The IQR is, again, something in the book and the videos online for you to look at. Okay, so to find the mean, again, I'm going to focus on the calculator. Okay, so what you do in the calculator, now we could do 38 plus 47 plus, and etc., and then divide by 20 and then get the mean. Okay, but what we're going to do is use the features of our calculator. Okay, so what we'll do is we go to Stat, Okay, so stat is your statistics, all of your statistic functions. Okay, press enter, and what we're going to do is we're going to edit our list. Now, I already put these in just to save time, but you notice how it says list 1, list 2, list 3, and so on. Okay, those are just the lists in your calculators, or in your calculator. Okay, so list 1, okay, what you do is you put in all the data values, 38, 47, 59, 64, and so on. If a number occurs more than once, you list it more than once. Okay, so all those data values are listed into list 1. And then what we do, after they're all listed in there, you go to stat, and then we're going to calculate one var stats. Okay, that stands for one variable stats. Okay, the variable meaning exam score. Okay, so we're going to do one var stats. Now we can just press enter again, but what I like to do is press second and 1. You notice how above the 1 on your calculator says L1. So that tells us what list we're going to perform the one variable stats on. And then press enter, and we get x bar equals 76.3. Okay, so if we write the mean, now it tells us, our calculator tells us x bar. Okay, but your calculator doesn't know if the list of data that we put in was a sample or a population, so it just uses x bar. We know it was a population, so we're going to say mu equals 76.3. Okay, the median, or the middle number, we can use the arrow key to scroll down. Okay, and as you go through the chapter, you'll learn about Q1, quartile 1, and quartile 3. MED is the median, so that's 81. Okay, so I'll just say median equals 81. Okay, the mode, well, that's not on the calculator. Okay, so that your calculator doesn't find that for you, so you have to go to the data set to find that. The standard deviation, well, the standard deviation, again, it's a population, so we're using sigma of x. Okay, so S is the sample standard deviation. Notice that's a little bit larger. Sigma of x is the population standard deviation. So we'll say 14.91. Okay, so sigma equals 14.91. Okay, so all the other things we can just find from our data set. Okay, so we have the mean, we have the median, we have the standard deviation. To find the mode, well, the mode is the number that occurs most often. Okay, and it looks like 84 occurs 3 times, which is more than any other number. So the mode is 84. Okay, so we have that. The range is the maximum data value minus the minimum. Okay, so the range is 96 minus 38. Okay, so if we do 96 subtract 38, that'll give us 58. Okay, so the range is 58. So we have that, and then the IQR is the Q3 minus Q1. So Q3, oops, I have to go back and do the stats again. Okay, Q3 was 86.5, and Q1 was 69. So subtract those, and we get 17.5. So the IQR was 17.5. Okay, as far as just looking at the data set, so the mean of 76.3, that's located right around here. And I broke these up into 10 in each row, 10 scores. So we can see the mean is a little below where the median was. The median was halfway between 79 and 83. Okay, so the median was at 81. Okay, so again, put the values into list 1 by going to stat, and then edit to put the values in a list. Okay, and then stat, calculate one var stats on the list that we used. Okay, list 1. Okay, if you have more than one list in there, you could put whatever list you want, list 2, list 3, and so on. Okay, now as far as making a histogram for this data, okay, if this takes a few steps. Okay, if we look at going to second, stat plot, okay, so on the y equals, this is stat plot above it. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll just press enter and notice that plot 1 is on. Okay, if your plot 1 was off, okay, so if off was highlighted, you want to turn your plot 1 on. And we're going to choose this option, which is a histogram. Okay, the other ones are some box plots, which we'll learn later on. And then this is a scatter plot. Okay, and then this is a connected graph and so on. Okay, the X list, and you might have it, your calculator functions may be different. I find students in class are kind of half and half with the version they have. But your X list, we put the values in list 1. Okay, now the frequency, whoops. Okay, we want that to be 1, basically saying that each value in list 1 counts only once. Now, if you have a different version of the calculator, it may have an X list and then it may have frequency. Well, if the 1 doesn't work, if you get an error, just go back and delete, so leave it blank, and then see if that works. Okay, so what we'll do is now we're going to say zoom stat. Okay, so zoom 9 means that we're going to zoom in our stat window. Okay, so we'll press enter, and that makes a histogram. If we press trace, well, here we can see the minimum is 38, maximum 49.6. Okay, now we're gonna change those numbers, but that's basically saying the minimum value that's represented in that bar, and there's 2 values in there. The minimum value that fits in that bar is 38. Okay, so the student that got a 38, and then less than 49.6. So that bar is a frequency of 2, which is the bottom 2 scores, 38 and 47. Okay, the next one, okay, the next bar, the interval includes any values from 49.6, or basically 50, all the way up to 61.2. Okay, less than 61.2. Well, 61.2, less than that will be 61. So that bar includes anything from 50 all the way to 61. So that includes 59. Okay, and so on. You can trace through. Now, those numbers are not very pretty to look at, all those decimals and trying to figure out exactly what numbers are in the intervals. So if we go to our window, we see the minimum is 38, so that's where the data started at. And then the X scale, the X maximum is 107.6. Well, I'm just going to change that to 100, okay, because the highest value was 96 or 97. And then the X scale, 11.6. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to change that to 10, just so we can see what happens. Okay, now if I graph it, let's see what happens. Now if we trace, now the first interval goes from 38 to less than 48, okay, which is basically 38 to 47. Okay, the next interval goes from 48 to 57. The next one from 58 to 67. Okay, so that's a pretty good interval, or pretty good histogram. Okay, what we could do, we could make it so all the 30s are in one, all the 40s are in another one, all the 50s, and so on. Okay, so if we started at 30 and go up by let's try 11. Nope, let's try 10. Okay, so that one will list all the 30s. Okay, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and so on. And the idea is going to be able to look at that histogram and notice that it's skewed to the left. Okay, so the higher bars are here, and then it's the rest of them are kind of pulling to the left. Okay, or there's several values out here to the left, so that's going to be a skewed left histogram. Okay, and again, the mean of 76.3 is in this interval here. Okay, so that's in the interval from 70 to 79. The median, which was 81, is in the next one. Okay, so the middle number is in the 80 to 89 interval. Okay, and it's also the one that includes the mode. Okay, so that's how you do a histogram on your calculator. Again, going to your window and playing around with the values until you get something that you like. That makes it easy to look at the intervals when you trace it. Okay, that'll be a good thing to be able to do. Okay, last couple of things to look at are if you're given a frequency distribution. Okay, so given a frequency distribution, the difference now is we don't have a list of data. We have our x value and a frequency. So rather than just given a list of numbers, now we have numbers and their frequency. Okay, so what we do is I just have a basic example of suppose the students in class were asked the number of credit cards they carry and the corresponding frequency. So the first row means that 5 students carried 0 credit cards. 12 students carried 1 credit card, 4 students carried 2, and 2 students carried 3 credit cards. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the mean, median, mode of that distribution. So basically, if you want to find the mean, essentially what you'd have to do, you would have 0 listed 5 times, and then you would add 1 12 times, and then 2 4 times, and 3 2 times. Now the shortcut to that would be you would multiply 0 times 5, 1 times 12, 2 times 4, 3 times 2, and add up the result. Okay, so you would take x times f, okay, so x is the number of credit cards, times f, the frequency, multiply them, and then add them together. Now our calculator, we're going to go to Stat and Edit. Now we're going to clear the list that's in there, so we're going to use our arrow key to press up to L1, make sure L1 is highlighted, press Clear, and then Enter, and that'll clear the list. And all we do now is we put the number of credit cards into list 1 and the frequency into list 2. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, oops. Okay, so once you do that, we're going to do the same thing as before. Stat, calculate, 1 var stats. But now the difference is we have our variable in list 1 and the frequency in list 2. So we still only have one variable, which is the number of credit cards, but we have 2 lists. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say second 1 for list 1, and then comma, which is above the 7, second 2 for L2. Okay, press enter, and it gives us the mean is 1.13. It also gives us the sample standard deviation and population standard deviation. I didn't ask you to find this, but it's going to be the same rules on your calculator, or the same steps. Okay, the median, the middle number is 1. Okay, and we can figure that out by there's 5 and 12 is 17, and 4 is 21, and 2, there's 23 total data values. So halfway into that data set is going to be the 12th number in. Okay, so we do n plus 1 over 2. 23 plus 1 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. So here's 5 data values in, 12 more would be 17, so you went past 12, so that's where the median is. Okay, so the median is 1 credit card. Okay, the mode is the one that occurs most often, is also 12. Okay, so the median is 1, and the mode is also 1. Okay, now suppose we have a frequency distribution that has intervals. Okay, so suppose students in a class or in a college said their commute distance from 0 to 4 miles. 15 students said they'd travel 0 to 4 miles to get to class. 5 to 9 miles, 18 students said they traveled between 5 and 9 miles. 15 students said between 10 and 14 miles, and so on. Okay, so what we have is now we have intervals instead of discrete numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3. So what we do is we can't put intervals in our calculator, so what we do is we use the midpoint. 2, 7, 12, 17, 22, and then for 25 or more, we just stay consistent with the pattern and do 27. Okay, so in our calculator, we go to Stat, we're going to edit our list. List 1, I'll clear it out. List 2, clear that out. And then put in the midpoints in list 1. And then list 2 will be the corresponding frequencies. 15, 18, 15, 8, 4, and 6. Okay, then do the same thing again. Stat, calculate, 1 bar stats. Okay, now if you have the other calculator, instead of doing L1 comma L2, okay, you may have to use your X list as list 1 and then frequency is list 2. Okay, it just depends on the operating system on your calculator. Okay, I press enter. I get 10.94 for the mean, so I'll say X bar 10.94. And then you have the sample standard deviation and population standard deviation. Median 9.5. Okay, the mode will be the one that occurs most often, which is interval 5 to 9. Okay, so that one, you could say the midpoint 7, or you could say the interval 5 to 9. Okay, either one I would accept as an answer. Okay, now if we look at the median, okay, so the middle number, if you look at the number of data values we have, if you add up the frequency column, let's see, we have 30, 48, 58, 66. So there's 66 total data values. So if we do 67 plus 1 over 2, so that's n plus 1 over 2, we get 33.5. I just did the wrong thing. 66 plus 1. Okay, it's 33.5. So that means you have to go 30 to the 33.5 into the data set. Well, we notice 15 and 18 is 33. So that's 33 total. 34 would be the first number from 10 to 14. So 33.5 would be halfway between 9 and 10, which is 9.5. Okay, so that's where that mean is, the median is coming from. Okay, and again, as far as the standard deviations go, those are the S and sigma for the sample and population. Okay, so again, the idea for this video was to show you on the calculator